of February. Yeah, just started recording. Dave back with you on a Friday. So yeah, I'm going to run through some of my recent vinyl finds. Nice lineup, nice varied collection of stuff I'm going to run through you. I'll start off with something that I found in, well, there's a chain of basically, I suppose they're best described as kind of pawn shops. They're called cash converters. I think they're found in the UK as well, but they do stock vinyl, usually hard enough to find good stuff in them. But I saw this following album for sale for €6, which is roughly equivalent to about $6 US, and that is self-titled album by Stephen Stills. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. Stephen Stills, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and €6. It's not an album that I was really looking for, but I probably would have left it behind if it had been a reissue. But a quick look inside shows that it is an original pressing, an original Atlantic Plum pressing, and it is in absolutely superb condition. I mean, there is literally not a single mark on this record. This is absolutely really well looked after, you know, for a near 50-year-old album. 1970, I think it was. Yeah, 1970. So yeah, just nary a spindle mark on it. You know, it's close to near mint as I think a pressing of the copy of this album, I'd say, as you can get. So I thought €6 is definitely well worth it. Yeah, it's an album I've seen The Wild a lot, but never pulled the trigger on before. Listened to it, and yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Really do like this. I didn't know that Hendrix was on this album, but yeah, he's on the track Old Times, Good Times. So yeah, pleased with that pickup. Now, something totally different. This is the most expensive item that I'm going to show. Well, the one that I pay the most for. This I got in my local independent record store in the second-hand section, and this is a release on Factory Records from 1980. Factory Records, that Manchester label, which is home to Joy Division and others. This is Fact 24, a Factory Quartet. There are 4 acts on this. This is a double album, and including the Durutti Column, Vinnie Riley, guitar, maestro. I actually, prior to this, did not have anything, I think, well, at least not in physical form anyway, anything by the Durutti Column on CD or vinyl. So pick this up. It's a pretty rare album. It goes for quite a bit, but I think 20. Yeah, so paid €20 for it, which I think is probably about what a copy of this in this condition goes for. Yeah, so there's four acts in total. Side 1 is the Durutti Column. Side 2 is Kevin Ewick, singer-songwriter, kind of in the vein of Kevin Coyne. And then there's 2 post-punk acts, Blurt and the Royal Family and the Poor. That's the name of that's actually the name of the band, the Royal Family and the Poor. It kind of comes across a bit like a kind of industrial band, kind of with John Cooper Clarke type spoken word over it. Blurt then are another interesting band, kind of funk punk, or kind of funky post punk, but it's really kind of because of the Durutti Column tracks that I bought this, because they're very hard to find any kind of original stuff by them. By them, I say Vinnie Riley in the wild, but yeah, there we go. Now, last weekend I went to a record fair here in town, and I picked up 2 items. Now, first off is a band whom, quite frankly, I thought I'd never see myself buying anything by them. They're a band who, well, my brother used to be into them back in the day. They're a band who are kind of, their name is kind of a byword for kind of naff, I suppose you could say. But this is their debut album, and this album, I've seen it shown a few times in the VC by several people who have really praised it and said, like, it really is a superb debut album, and it's totally different to what they kind of would go on to be more better known for. But that is a debut album by UB40, and this is called Signing Off. UB40, reggae band from Birmingham, England. This was released in 1980. And this comes with a bonus 12-inch. Now this is a Swedish pressing, and yeah, very much a dub reggae influence on this. They're better known for their big hit singles like Red Red Wine, but this is totally different. This is more of a dub. This is much grittier, and I really do like this album. And even if you're not a fan of their stuff in general, which I myself would consider it not to be, this is definitely an album worth grabbing. Now, interestingly enough as well, the very tatty inner sleeve of the main disc, the inside of it, it's kind of split open. The inside is actually signed by the band themselves. I don't know if you can make that out there, but yeah, I can make a Robin Campbell, Astro. Yeah, it's kind of, some of the names are hard to make out, but it is actually signed in there. There's a few more signatures there, signed by the band there. So that was interesting. And that's the bonus 12-inch, which comes with it as well. And I think that the inner sleeves are very tatty. So, but yeah, I'm signing off by UB40. Yeah, very, very, very decent. It's been described as the best reggae album to be released by a British band. Yeah, so anyway, on the same day at the same record fair, I also picked up this. This is a band who always grabbed it. Well, some of their earlier albums are extremely hard to find, but this is a later one. Graaff Generator, and this is called The Quiet Zone, and it's got a kind of a double title: The Quiet Zone and The Pleasure Dome. This was released in 1977. It was their last album before they split up, but they reformed again in the 90s. But released on Charisma, Mad Hatter label. This is they've gone through a bit of a lineup change at this point, and they kind of utilised there's a bit of a new wave influence running through this this album, but really do like Graaff Generator, and anything anything involving Peter Hamill. Van Graff. And now this again, another kind of new wavy influenced album by a Prog 70s Prog figure. King Crimson guitarist Robert Fripp. Debut out. No, no, it wasn't his debut. I think this might have been his debut solo album, but he did do albums in collaboration with Brian Eno. But this came out in 1979, and this is called Exposure. Robert Fripp, as you know, guitarist for King Crimson. Again, this is very much it's kind of a new wave influence running through this. Kind of new wave art rock kind of a thing. This came out in 1979, but this is actually this is a reissue from 1985 on EG. I think it came out on Virgin originally, but yeah, I really like everything Robert Fripp has done, basically, whether it be with King Crimson or in collaboration with David Sylvian or Eno or his solo stuff. And yeah, so this is really great album. I bought this. I was with Ben Costello. I got this in a local stall. There's a kind of a flea market. I might have mentioned this flea market before. Vinyl there isn't generally cheap. I got this album. I wouldn't say I got it for. It was €10, but it's well, okay. It's an album I've been looking for a long time. So complaining, but okay. Yes. This is an album. This is actually very hard to find. This next item that I'm going to show. This is by a Irish jazz guitarist who Louis Stewart. Louis Stewart who sadly passed away last year. And now Ben Costello has. I think Ben Costello has pretty much all of his albums. Ben is a big fan, and he's seen him several times live. Unfortunately, I never did get to see him live myself, but I spotted this I picked up in a local second-hand bookshop come record shop. This is Louis the First, and this is recorded under the Louis Stewart Trio. So he recorded this with two other musicians. Martin Walsh on bass and John Wadham on drums. This was recorded in 1975 and released in 1976. And this is on an Irish label called Hawk Records. Yeah, so Louis Stewart, very much a kind of a pretty much a bit of a Django Reinhardt influence, but this is a pretty rare record, and I picked it up for a really nice price. I picked it up for €8. Generally goes for around the €30 mark online, so really happy to get it for that price, and it's in pretty good condition. So this is a really good. Some really tight playing here from Louis Stewart and his backing musicians. So I actually, this is only the second of his albums that I have. Hard enough to find in the wild, generally, even here on his native land. Now I'm show 3 items which I got. I'm currently doing a weekend course in a town called Cove, which I might have mentioned before. Cove, formerly known as Queenstown. It's the town which was the last stop of the Titanic before it went on its fatal voyage. I'm doing a course there on Saturdays. I'll actually be going there again tomorrow. And last week I had about half an hour to spare, so I popped into a charity shop there, which I frequented in the past. I had a look through the vinyl and CDs, and CD-wise I made a very nice find with CDs. Now this is Warsaw, now a band who later became better known as Joy Division. This is a bootleg CD actually. I don't know how it ended up in a charity shop, but somebody obviously gave it away, donated it. It includes their debut EP, which I actually have a reissue of that, a record store reissue of that on vinyl, which was very kindly given to me by Jimmy Earl of Suave in as part of VCLT. But that includes this. Includes that plus other recordings and some bonus recordings as well. There's some tracks on this which I hadn't, one or two tracks which I hadn't heard before. One from 1980, I think, a live recording, plus there's some other recordings from 77, some demo recordings. So yeah, very interesting bootleg CD. Warsaw, aka Stroke Joy Division. The other item I got there is by a band. This is an album which I see around a lot, and I mean, it's so common that I kind of I've never felt compelled to grab it before, but I thought it was going for next to nothing, so I thought, and that is Sky. Sky, kind of a prog supergroup. This is their second album, Sky 2. And yeah, so John Williams, you're all familiar with John Williams, the guitarist, Australian classical guitarist. Some of the other musicians on here, Tristan Fry, I'm quite familiar with him as a session musician, session drummer, plus Herbie Flowers, a bassist. Yeah, this is double album, extremely long, very long tracks. Yeah, I kind of like it in bits. There's some tracks that I really like. I wouldn't be kind of blown away by it or anything, but I mean, it's for kind of, you know, supremely talented musicians. But there is a lot of kind of new solos on it. But some of the tracks on it, particularly the opening, I really like the opening track, kind of a nice, funky, kind of tight number. But yeah, it was definitely worth picking up for the, and it's in superb condition as well. Definitely worth picking up for next to nothing. I'll finish up actually, yeah, on the same day when I arrived back in the city, arrived back on the train. I popped into a shop. It's a kind of a musical guitar repair shop where they have second-hand vinyl. And the next item I picked up for only €1, and that is New Order, Brotherhood. This is an album which I was missing. It's got that distinctive cover, you know, kind of metallic, weird kind of metallic cover. Now it's not in great condition. It actually, there's quite a bit of discoloration going on there. The stored some are very damp. You can probably see it there in the inner sleeve. Also on the on the labels of the album itself, there's a lot of discoloration. But I mean, okay, for €1, for €1, definitely, you know, worth grabbing. Oh, by the way, it's an Irish pressing, quite rare, and it's actually it's translucent, but I don't know if you can actually quite. Yeah, you'd have to hold it under a light basically to kind of show the effect. But it is a translucent Irish pressing. It's a pity it's not in better condition, but I've cleaned it up. It plays fine. There's a couple of skips on it, but it's really the kind of damp of the sleeve really, which is a shame. But still, I picked it up for next to nothing, you know, and so I can't complain. I was going to show some CDs as well, but I'm kind of running. I don't want this video to run a bit long. I picked up a lot of very interesting promo CDs in a few charity shops recently, so I may just leave that until I might do a separate video on them, because there's very interesting stuff in those. So I'll just leave it for now. So thanks very much. So I might try to do that video maybe later in the weekend, perhaps. So until then, thanks for watching, everybody in the VC, and everybody have a great weekend.